Yeah. So this quality looks solid to me. So, oh, are we started? All right. So, welcome to the FTF AMQ Tourneys server. This is like a league, I guess, like a 8-player league kind of thing. Maybe like a 8-player bracket. Uh, it says it's gonna say Goomba versus Melty, but I think we have Sai against let's see. Sai versus nyamu right now. I can't read Japanese. It might be changing who's playing soon, or we could do their game after this. I don't know. I'm not in charge of this. I'm Zones. The voice. You might recognize my voice from SVO. Hopefully you do, or maybe some Tempo Stormcasts. But I got started doing community tournaments, and it's good to stay warmed up during the off season. So here I am. It looks like this might be a double feature today. So we're just looking for our players, waiting for our players to get ready. Let me try to figure out what this format is. I'm assuming this is like a 2-deck, 0-ban kind of thing in rotation. Rotation best of 3, no bans. Looks like it's 2-deck 0-ban. So we just had some nerfs to spell boost, which killed the deck completely, so that making it still the most common deck in the most recent JCG. Really exciting stuff. I personally hate the hell out of spell boost. I've been and I made a prediction, soft prediction, that there'll be more spell boost related bans upcoming because the deck is just incredibly painful to play against. But it looks like neither of our players here have brought spell boost. Instead, we see Sai with a dragon deck of some sort, which I hope is discard. But given the light sleeve, maybe it's a debate, but it could be Armed Dragon, and then it looks like oh, and we're getting in, so I didn't see what the other... But Nyamu has brought Shadow and Blood, which most likely would be Last Words, and Wrath. It's pretty common, pretty popular archetypes that have made a recurrence using the expansion theme for Eightfold Abyss Azvaldt. And okay, so his second leader was what's her name? I'm drawing a blank. Nahatu. Who is a sword leader, and he has gone first with sword, loot sword, specifically, which is probably one of the most technically demanding decks right now. But that was a bold play from Sai. Honestly, he has gone and played his Adherence turn 1. I think he can only do this pretty much because he has Metatron in hand. Adherent usually is pretty hard to protect. But with Metatron, he's going to be able to protect Adherent from... Yep, and he's immediately going to play Metatron to protect Adherent, because what he wants to do is play Tidal Gunner and a loot card in order to trigger Adherent's Evolve effect. And yeah, that's already putting Nyamu in quite the bind. Nyamu's just getting aggro down here. Metatron is doing a great job of slowing down Nyamu's ability to counteract these plays, but Nyamu's hand is also quite a banger here. So Tidal Gunner is going to come out here, and how's Sai going to do this? You tap in with Metatron first and then play the Goblet? Yeah. And that's going to let him min-max the trade value of his followers in play, and then just, when you play that Goblet with Tidal Gunner's effect, she will do 1 ping to a random follower and 1 ping face, and then that heal on Metatron then is super efficient. So Nyamu was hoping to get some... Nyamu's hand was looking pretty good to use the Banquet card. I'm drawing a blank on the second, but instead he gets to use the new Clone Reanimate. Like it's got a really long name. 1 Playpoint Reanimate card. I'm drawing a blank on the names right now. And just get a second Fallen Sergeant out. So these Fallen Sergeants, when their last word effect is going to allow Nyamu to pull more Condemned followers from his deck, and eventually you just want to get your entire Condemned army out from your deck in your hand, and use Istendet to pop your Kernels. I guess like a popcorn analogy there might be apt. I'm not sure. So Sai's got a little bit of a tricky thing here. I think what I'd like for Sai to do is go Opulent Strategist, Ultimate Hollow here. What that will do is evolve the Opulent Strategist. He gets a ping from his... he's deciding what token to get a Opulent Strategist. Graceful Maneuver is an interesting choice. I like to grab Dual Blade Flurry in this situation, but that's usually a little too greedy. It's kind of cool with a Lupin if he's playing that. Anyway, I've got a little sidetrack there. But that evolution there, since Sai played a spell, is going to trigger the evolve on opulent strategies, which then triggers the uh, effect on adherence of hollowness. The eye patch guy on the left looking really eager to hit with some unspecified weapon, and that gives Sai an extra loot, and so he kind of gets his loot economy going. With Sai, but even though, I mean, Sai's made some really good plays right now, but he's already got like his optimal turn 5 play in hand, so it's looking really good for Sai here, as long as he can find a Barbaros or a Octrice from his hand. And nyamu still has his work cut out for him. Istindet's Evo created a Skullfish, which allows nyamu to remove 2 followers, but he just doesn't have anything else right here, and he's just falling behind on board still. Sai currently has 6 damage with the Evo, 7 damage with an Evo here. He's in an Evo phase, which generates another loot. So that is +2, and if he gets a necklace... Oh, he already has the necklace in hand. Yeah, necklace, so that is 7 +2, and that is just lethal for Sai. That is a very quick game. Oh, he's even going to play the Graceful Maneuver? That is completely unnecessary. Okay, yeah. With the necklace generated the previous turn, that was 1 more damage from Sai's play, so that was just lethal. Yeah, Sword quickly making work of this matchup because of that insane curve Sai had. I think the Metatron, often seen as a card who lets you ramp going second, but in this case, she basically enabled Sai to just aggro out with no contest on the adherence of hollowness. And alright, so nyamu's going to try again with Last Word's Shadow, and Sai is going to go in again with, this is Armed Dragon with the Forte. We haven't seen any armed cards in Sai's hand, but Freya and Forte means it's armed for sure. And I'm assuming this is a no ramp list that's been really popular. The Razorclaw Thief is a 1 or 2 of, usually, so... but it's like really nice if that's your 1 of in the deck, because then Freya will not pull the Razorclaw Thief, and you're guaranteed to get condemned cards. Okay, and Sai going first, dropping the Razorclaw Thief. So the reason Razorclaw Thief is really nice, even though he's not an armed card, is that his last word is to put another copy of himself in your hand, which means he's basically one of the most efficient ways to pick up 2 copies of Draconic Armor, which adds to your armed follower count really quickly. And you want to speedrun to 4 armed cards in this deck because, Leviathan Dragon Blast form is just ridiculously broken. So Sai here is, he's just building up these armors in hand. I think he's going to probably power out 2 armed cards next turn with like Metatron and the Dragon Breeder in hand, just for aggressive purposes. And then that means that with that Dragon Lancer that has just Lizard Lancer that's just left play, that's 1 arm, and Draconier, that makes for 4 arm followers. And Sai just drew a better target for his Draconic Armor. He's going to put that on the Dragonbane Blader, which will allow him to draw a card. And then it is probably Draconic Weapon and Metatron here. Oh, I said armor. It's actually a weapon. My mistake. And that is 3 arm followers in play for Sai with a nasty curve. And I don't think nyamu can afford to leave any of these in play. So, okay. Well, nyamu can't really make a full clear here. So instead, he's going to choose the Underworld Lieutenant, who puts up 2 1/4 wards here. The Elder Spartoy soldiers have been granted ward by Underworld Lieutenant. But yeah, as he's emoting with Miyako, though, he is definitely in a bit of a bind. But that 1/4 stat line is really good here because it's going to keep Sai from easily activating Leviathan Dragon's blast mode. Alright, so nyamu here is choosing to get rid of Draconier. Draconier is a little better at getting rid of his followers. Draconier's Evo effect does a ping 4. And so Sai has to break through this somehow. He cannot activate Leviathan Dragon's alternate forms this turn because he has only had 3 arm followers leave play. That Dragonbane Blader is the 4th. So he's going to decide whether to push for tempo with just a base form Leviathan Dragon Evo, which is like a 7/7 body, a 7/6 after it trades with the Elder Spartoy, or he's going to try to fish for something with Draconic Armor. But if Sai hits another copy of Leviathan Dragon with that Draconic Armor, he is not in a great spot here. So I'm kind of curious what he's gonna do here. This is He had a really strong start, but now he has to try to convert somehow. I think I would like to see the Draconic Armor personally, because the Levitating Dragon might be good on tempo, but it's one of 3 copies in your deck, and you don't really, and it also gives rid of your armed follower you have in hand, which makes the Draconic Armor card really bad. And he could take a slower turn here to refill his hand with the Dragon Breeders here. But Sai saying that Sai disagrees. He wants to go in as quickly as possible. He's going to ignore the Lieutenant here and just hit face for 4, like using Levitating Dragon to get through both 1/4s and then hit face for 4. So it's just asking nyamu to. He's going to rely on the top. Sai is going to rely on the top of his deck to provide him with the resources to win. I mean, nyamu has to get rid of this Levitating Dragon at least. So Sai will have 4 armed followers having left play after this turn, and any arm follower off the top of his deck is very live. Even if Sai has one slow turn here, those Dragon Breeders in his hand, once Sai hits Overflow, will be able to draw. So that is kind of his plan. Nyamu is showing the clear power of Last Words here, using the extra effect from Mino, having hit 5 Last Words to get that. And okay, this is really cool. So from the Bones card is going to bring back Istindet, and Istindet then is going to Evo for a Skullfish here. So Nyamu is still in a bit of a rough spot with the life points, but he's found a way to stabilize, and now he's making a stand. So after this turn, Nyamu could totally turn the tables on Sai here. And I'm going to look up that card name while I have a moment to breathe, because I hate not knowing a card name off the top of my head. So the 1 play point reanimate card is From the Dust Reborn. Yeah, okay. And it is a 1 play point reanimate 2. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of what I was worried about with Sai's previous play. Draconic Armor now is really awkward because he does not have an armed follower in hand. I think his best play here is going to be try to use Babkatha, Razorclaw Thief, and Babkatha maybe in order to try to dig through for something. If he hits like a Lance Lizard, it's okay. But okay, that is also good. It's one of the rush arm followers, but I think he should Draconic Armor here first in order to make sure he has a play. He's probably not going to lose from this position just from damage. So, okay, he's going to choose not to use the Draconic Armor. He wants to clear as much as possible. And he's going to do 3 damage face. Is this? Yeah, this lets him do a full clear. But I have to wonder if he's actually worried about having to clear the full board here. And all these last words are going to trigger. Skullfish and Underworld Lieutenant both do 2 damage on last words. So that's going to ping Sai for a little bit of pain as well. And let's look at this. So Cerberus is glowing, but I believe Nyamu is only at like... I don't think Nyamu's quite at 10 last words yet. Is he? I'm not quite sure. He doesn't have any way to pop his own followers in hand, so he's going to have to try to make a play somehow. All right. But it's possible that he hit 10 last words off of that. Oh, he is at 10 last words. It's huge. That's actually lethal for Nyamu. So now, okay, 10 last words. Cerberus gains Storm here. So then... Oh, but no, he doesn't have it. Oh, no. I'm lying. He doesn't have an Istindet in hand. Okay. Never mind. No Istindet in hand means that Nyamu cannot pop anything here. And yeah. Alright, and so it's going to be on Sai here to see if he can draw a Levitating Dragon. I think that's his only out. If Sai can make Levitating Dragon Blast form, then he just has lethal without having to deal with Nyamu's board. But anything short of that is... Okay, so that is an armed card that Sai drew, was Hammer Dragon Youth. So I think it's time to Draconic Armor and hope you hit Levitating Dragon here, Sai. Does he? Oh my god, he hits the Levitating Dragon! That's lethal! That's kind of insane. So blast form here is just going to be 7 damage. He's asked for some apologies. That's actually up to 8 damage. And that is pretty much the only out Sai had in this position. That's not really the only out. You could have drawn like Lance Lizard and a Swiftwing Dragonute, which would combine for 6 damage. So he had a lot of outs, but with the top deck not being a Draconic follower, that was his only out. So that's a swift 2-0 for Sai. And yeah, I mean, this is showing kind of the some of the weaknesses of last word, but nyamu is just one instant debt in hand from winning that game. Well played from both players. Yeah. And that is going to be game. And I think we have another match lined up coming up, but this is kind of the power of an aggro lineup. If you go first with aggro, like it's really hard for your opponent to come back. Yeah, and the okay, and it looks like our next match is being lined up. Taking a quick look at the schedule. So this is 12 p.m., 1 p.m., 11:30. Okay, so we are starting next match soon. Yeah. Quick word from our sponsor. No, I'm just like kidding. I don't got jack shit about that. That was so. Okay, so I can go over the players a little bit. I've played against Sai and SVO a couple of times. He is he was our World Grand Prix representative from the West region for 2021. He clutched out. Actually, oh, is it a different Sai? I am so sorry. Okay, I thought it was a Sai from Rev Team. It was another Sai. Okay. That is my mistake. I'm being told that I had the wrong Sai. But you know what? You might as well be the same person. If you use the same name, you're basically the same person, right? So, there's nobody else use the name Zones, please. All right, my mistake. So these are, so this is the FTF AMQ tournament server. Let's see, how do I show this? There's probably a link somewhere to be found, but this is a Discord server mainly for people who enjoy anime music quiz, and I have tournaments in that. I am terrible at anime music quiz, personally. I only know like Monogatari songs. Oh, and then I troll everyone by placing every Gintama season on my anime watch list. So I'm gonna have fun figuring out which thing is from which. Looks like we're having some questions about the rules for the best of 3 format. Alrighty, so we're setting up the next lobby here. Bum bum bum. And yeah, so going over the format of best of 3 in Shadowverse. This is the conquest format, so you bring 2 decks, and you just have to win both of them. Once you win with a deck, you no longer pick it. So it's more about how weak your weakest deck is, rather than how overwhelmingly strong your decks are overall. And it looks like we have a lobby coming up. Waiting for the match ID. Okay, it seems like we have a lobby. And this is going to be Goomba versus Melty. Looks like Melty is going to be the host player, so they will be at the bottom of the screen, while Goomba is on top of the screen, which is probably a bit of an inversion from how Goombas usually perform. But I guess in Paper Mario, Goombella and the who's the other Goomba? There's the dude Goomba. They attack by like jumping on the enemy and headbutting them. So, you know, maybe that's the mode of combat that we're gonna see here. Goombas tend to do better when they're not at the bottom of the combat ordering, I suppose. Yeah, and all right, Goomba seems to be already hit Grandmaster. That's more than I've played so far this expansion, so that's pretty cool. And with the Taker of Two tag, that's a really prestigious one. That one, I think you have to win. Was it like 20? Win 5-0 in Take Two, which is the arena mode in Shadowverse, 20 times. I yoinked that back in Starforged Legends, when blood was really broken. It's just by abusing blood. I don't think I think like more recently there have been more broken classes, but blood was broken in a way where you could really predictably like win the game with like the card pool in the class. Uh all right, so we're gonna see a dragon and shadow mirror here. Wonder if we're gonna see armed dragon again. Shadow, there's okay, so there's actually one of the goals for this expansion for that side games had is to have multiple playable archetypes in each class. And yeah, Nyamu in Discord is pointing out that these are both idols facing off against each other in their profile pictures. Their what are they called? Their emblems. Melty is sporting the shoot, what's her name? Alice emblem from the Shadowverse game Champions Battle, or the first Shadowverse anime. And then Goomba is using Yohane. Well, that's her name for herself, I guess, right? Like, I don't know much about Idolmaster, to be honest. Alice is an idol who enjoys using the Shadowcraft class, but she hates that she is forced to use the cute followers because her favorite card is Skeleton Raider. That is why she's a terrible person, because Skeleton Raider is one of the dumbest cards they've ever made. And no other reason. And yeah, so Dragon and Shadow both have several viable decks. We saw Arm Dragon, but there's like a more combo-y version of Dragon, which is Discard Dragon. And then there's a Bahamut version of Dragon that is very much a control deck and just tries to power out the Invoke for Ultimate Bahamut, which will then wipe the opponent's deck down to 5 cards. Shadow has an alternate deck as well, which is more aggressive than Last Words. It's just about making ghosts. It's Ghost Shadow. Alrighty. So we're getting into the game here between Goomba and Melty. And Melty is going first with Dragon. That's probably pretty promising if he's on Armed Dragon. And we'll see soon from the Mulligans. This is not Armed Dragon. This is Discard Dragon, most likely. Although I suppose Bahamut sometimes makes an appearance in decks with these cards, is most likely Discard Dragon with Warden of the Amulet, with the key card Nomadic Conductor, and Goomba with those cards very likely to be Last Words. Thunder God of the Tempest and Chaotic Doom are Last Words cards. They do not show up in the Ghost deck. So I'm gonna look at, and that is a pretty nice hand for. That's an okay hand for Goomba. The Deathcat Reaper, usually you want to play that with another follower in play, so while Goomba can turn 1 Thunder God to draw, not having a follower stick around, it might be kind of awkward. Whereas Melty's hand is... oof. Okay, so yeah, I think he's going to have to... You don't really want to drop this Drizail here because she's really useful later on, and in fact, Melty is going to hold on to the Drizail. I think I would have accelerated Drizail here because it's more important in this deck to find Dragon Oracle as soon as possible, and I think... okay, so yeah, I was going to say that it's nice to be able to have one more card to find... dig one card deeper to find that Dragon Oracle. So let's see. So that means that... Melty has gotten Pitch Noir and Blanc Brothers, who have an effect that when they're discarded from your hand, you put them directly into play, and that is what Melty has done. This is kind of a sort of an aggressive gamble here, because Noir and Blanc has another effect to evolve themselves when They are when you have 10 play points, and that evolution is really strong. Okay, and Melty just rips the Uranus from the top of the deck. That is a banish, so last words will not trigger, and that means that Goomba is now still stuck at 2 last words effect, and Melty is very high on board now, very far ahead on board. Now the discard deck's not usually known for being like a tempo fast type of deck, but Melty is certainly playing it this way, and now Melty with 3 Argentas in hand is going to have to use one for ramp. Because Melty has not discarded twice this game already, Argenta is going to not give him a refill, and Melty is actually just going to play this aggressively as he can. This is with Istindet. This is a chance for... Okay, so Goomba has a chance to make a comeback on board here. Istindet Evo with the Skullfish is going to take out 2 followers. Hugin and Moonin can then gang up on the remaining follower. Although I guess we don't. The irony with the artwork here is that we only see one of the Ravens of the Hugin and Moonin pair. But with 2 Chaotic Dooms in hand, anything could happen, and Melty is going to kind of hope for some healing or a destroy follower effect. Usually, probably follower damage is what Goomba would really want. I might have mixed up their names up there. My apologies. Goomba's now going to have to calculate what to do. I didn't really like the trade into Noir Blanc there from Goomba because that is the worst follower that Melty had. And so getting rid of Pneumatic Conductor is much more important. Getting rid of Uranus is also important because that's 3 damage face. Although, that's probably safe for now. Another Noir Blanc in hand for Melty here. But you cannot manually evolve Noir Blanc, so that's only 7 damage, no matter how Melty plays this. So I think the best play here is going to be to just Argenta again. That would be the 3rd discard for Melty. So unfortunately, with the other Argenta discarded the previous turn, Melty cannot get to 4 discards and start playing Lumior the next turn that easily. But still, with Argenta discarding 2 cards, we'll now draw Melty 3 cards and also ramp. So that is what Melty should be playing for. He's in the driver's seat, and it's going to take Goomba a while to recover, even from this position. So yeah, this is Argenta. Pitch your other 2 cards here, Melty. Let's go. Let's see it. And hope for Argenta. Melty no longer has any Argentas in deck. Okay, that Nomadic Conductor is huge. That means Lumior is active next turn. So now, yeah, Melty should play this Nomadic Conductor. Hopefully find a Dragonewt's Might. Wow, okay. I'm a little bit behind, but I was... Because now Nomadic Conductor evolves, pitching Dragonewt's Might, which draws another card, and then does a ping 3 to a random card, and then Melty would hope that this hits the Istindet because of the overflow effect, and there's the Istindet hit. That is just Melty is so far ahead right now. Really stomping Goomba, but from the lower position on the field. And now that Melty has discarded... Well, that's 5 cards, actually, with the Pneumatic Conductor. Lumior's effect is now active. Lumior, when you've discarded 4 more times on her fanfare, she discards 2 cards from your hand and draws 3 cards. But the other part of that is that for every card you discard while Lumior is in play, you do 2 damage to the opponent's entire side of the field and their leader. So basically, what Melty is going to be able to do next turn is Lumior pitch just these cards in their hand, and then draw 3, and then in those 3 cards, if there's a single discard, Melty just has lethal. So that is going to put... Oh my goodness, Goomba is really bold here, choosing to play Azvaldt for card draw from the Dust Reborn. We'll get Istindet back. And then, okay, but this is a full clear. This is a full clear. Istindet gets a Skullfish out, and then Cerberus will be able to... Right? Am I trolling? I don't think I'm trolling. Yeah, this is good ordering from Melty, showing that ladder experience. Gonna have to make a pitch here. Probably pitching the Chaotic Doom? Yeah, and so this heal from Cerberus's doggos here is going to, make sure to trade in the 1-2. Yeah. Okay. And trade over the 1-1? Okay, very good. So yeah, it was a good showing from Goomba here, methodically taking care of this board, but Melty just needs to draw into like 2 discards and he wins. So yeah, pitch the Hot-Headed Marauder. We don't need ramp here, and I would probably pitch. Oh, he's gonna pitch Warden of the Adamant Claw. Okay, I might have pitched Sealong there instead. And okay, that's 2 discards. So now this is lethal for Melty. You know, don't discard the Dragon Newt Smite, even though it's a bonus draw, because it is also a discard outlet on its own. And yeah, 2 discards in hand. That is going to be a clean 8 damage. And Melty is going to take game 1 with Discard Dragon. So the Discard Dragon was basically considered the strongest deck in the last rotation format we had, the mini expansion of Celestial Dragonblade. With the release of Lumior and Argenta in the mini expansion, the deck was particularly strong, and it lost one of its best cards in Orbed Cancer, which gave the deck a lot of consistency. But players are finding that, the card Noir and Blanc is really good into Spell Boost. So that is one thing that Discard is really good at. And then the other thing is that Drizail also does a lot of work to just give the deck a little more defensive power, whereas before Discard was kind of just a full steam ahead kind of deck. So now we're going to see the Dragon and Shadow matchup the other way around with Goomba playing Dragon, but Goomba is playing Armed Dragon and going second with Armed Dragon. We've seen host go first every time. The lobby says random, so it's not rigged, but technically it's possible to rig your lobby so the host always goes first or goes second. And like that setting is useful for practice. We use it sometimes to see how matchups go, because just like if we want to test a matchup extensively, and this is a very aggressive form of Armed Dragon. Adherent of Ardor is that card is just there to punch face. It's a 1/2 for 1, which is already a aggressive raid, but every time Adherent Ardor takes damage that isn't lethal damage to it, it pings the opponent's face for 2. So unfortunately for Goomba here, he's gone second, which means the Deathcat Reaper and Melty's hand is going to have a very convenient target in this Adherent of Ardor. But honestly, it's done its work. It encouraged Melty to play a little more slowly. Melty would have really liked to play Fallen Sergeant there. And that Deathcat Reaper is really useful later on for getting rid of a Levitating Dragon. So honestly, it's still a pretty good exchange for Goomba there. Probably one of the better you can expect going second. I mean, ideally, his 1-drop would have been Hammer Dragon Newt, but hey, you can't get everything perfectly, right? And now, with a clear board, I think what Melty wants to do is just drop Hugin and Moon in here. He can Fallen Sergeant plus Deathcat Reaper next turn, which is convenient. And we see the Deathly Tyrant's Feast in Melty's hand. That card is really cool when comboed with... Oh, okay. I am focusing too much on the Shadow player. This combo right here that Goomba just ripped from the top of his deck with the Iron Scale Serpent is kind of the main thing you want to go for in the pure aggro Armed Dragon list. By playing Iron Scale with a Draconic Weapon already in play, Iron Scale's buff effect triggers, and you get 2 Iron Scales in play. Oh, a bold haul here from Melty, and he snipes the Iron Scale. That's huge. That means Mino is active. That was the 5th last word on turn 4 already, and this is 2 more, so once these die, Melty's going to be at 7 last words, getting very close to his quest completion, 10 being the threshold that you usually want to hit with this deck. But, both these players are kind of getting there. The only thing, but that clean board wipe is huge, because if both of those Iron Scale Serpents don't die, then the Bad Katha in Goomba's hand would have allowed him to duplicate that Iron Scale Serpent. But yeah, I mean, Goomba's kind of on the ropes here. The Draconeer makes it clear, but with no Levitating Dragon in hand, Goomba's going to have to work pretty hard to find a way to win. That deck is pretty much all or nothing on making sure Levitating Dragon does what he does, which is blast. Like that, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's the It's Always Sunny meme applies here. And we see that Melty is going to immediately slam the glowing card in his hand. That is a copy of Gensetsu Terror Banquet. At Necromancy 9, she makes 4 foxes, and that means that if these foxes are clear, it should be when, because these foxes it is required to clear these foxes unless Goomba can snipe out Gensetsu herself, because Gensetsu makes every fox. which I guess are supposed to be her tails, um, makes the foxes gain +2/+0 every time they attack. That's not ignorable. And then when the foxes die, Gensetsu herself gets +2/+0. So that's also not really ignorable. And yeah, and then Last Word Shadow is also not a deck that really depends on using its... Okay, but the Swiftwing Dragonute is going to, in fact, be able to snipe out Gensetsu herself. And then combined with this Evo of Freya, who also found a Hammer Dragonute. Right, that one drop now gains Storm, but yeah, Goomba has to think about this. Does he want to deploy the Hammer Dragonute? He does. And it's awkward because that follower is usually your most efficient source of face damage, but yeah, Melty, okay, Melty is a very fast player. Just slams out the Chaotic Doom. That is, yeah, so that card, okay, so that card has a bunch of random effects, like accordingly for its name. Appropriately for its name, but one of the main thing that it does here is that it just makes Goomba's life really awkward. Maybe not that awkward with the Draconic Smash. So if you can, Goomba can smash one of these Chaotic Dooms and see what it does. And I think the question for Goomba here is whether he's going to use Forte or Levitate Dragon. So Levitate would refund 3 play points, but would not activate Bad Katha because... Oh, no, sorry. Blast Form refunds 2 play points, which would leave Goomba at 3 play points. I was getting ahead of myself. But that doesn't activate Bab Katha, so that's a little awkward, because what Goomba would like to do is get to use Bab Katha's Evo. So I think this is going to be Forte to get the 3rd Evo. Yeah, that's going to snipe. Chaotic Doom has a random follower ping, but that follower ping cannot destroy Forte if she rolls... Oh, it doesn't destroy Forte because it doesn't do enough damage, I believe. I think it's only 4 follower damage. Oh, maybe it's 5. It's got like 1 through 6 on its effects. There's a chance that could have killed Forte. I'm not exactly sure, to be honest. But now this is really awkward for Melty because he's got the only thing he can do here is play another Chaotic Doom. He has got a Deathcat Reaper, but there's no follower to target with Deathcat Reaper, which would be the clean way to get rid of Forte. So yeah, I wonder what he's going to do here. I mean, a Chaotic Doom is probably the only play, unfortunately. But that is dangerous, because if those Chaotic Dooms don't roll the right effect, Forte is just going to get through for a ton of damage, and that would be lethal. Forte is protected from trades and from effect damage, but she can be targeted and destroyed. That's very, very weird. I mean, not untargetability, that's kind of Forte's thing. Unattackability, rather. I guess it's because she's flying up in the air, so you can't really hit her easily. But yeah, so Melty deep in the tank here. Probably his best bet is just to play the Chaotic Doom. There's not really anything else going on with his hand. Corral Souls on the Deathcat Reaper draws, and I guess you can go for an Istendat there, but it's... Yeah, the Chaotic Doom is more likely to get you through this turn because it can roll healing, it can roll, and then the pre-evo is going to be really good because that makes Levitating Dragon worse at getting through it. So, yep. Alrighty, Draconic Armor off the top for Goomba. That's huge. Any like arm follower is going to be more damage. In fact, this allows Goomba to, let's see, so yeah, unless it rolls Hammer Dragonute or another Levitating Dragon, this is lethal for Goomba. So I think Goomba should Draconic Armor first. That's 6 play points left. Levitating Dragon Blast mode would be 3 play points left. And then if it's Lance Lizard or Swiftwing Dragonute, that is lethal because Levitating Blast would be 7 damage. And then okay, so what Goomba is doing here is deciding whether or not he can afford to trade with Forte. But if this rolls healing, oh, he got the healing roll. Yeah, this is why you actually don't want to trade first here. I know the random effects can be really intimidating, but rolling healing there actually denies Goomba the lethal. I think. Yeah. Okay, Goomba's gonna go for Babkatha instead of the. Okay. This is more cards drawn. Okay, and this is going to give Yeah, but this is only. It sounds ridiculous that I put it like this, but it's only 11 damage. There could have been a full lethal, and he trades again. That can roll so many beneficial effects. Okay, but I think he has to trade there because it's not lethal. A second Abyssal Kernel, and yeah, Melty has to commit here. Is he gonna find an Estendet? Okay, that's an Estendet. Game is playable for Melty. Hit face with 2 ghosts, but he can't pop the Kernel again, which means a Levitane Dragon with an armor in hand is just going to be lethal. There's no way for Melty to heal. So he's mindful of Levitane Dragon Blast Mode. So Blast Mode, I've been mentioning that it's really strong. Levitane Dragon Blast Mode refunds 2 play points when you evolve it, and then at end of turn, it does damage equal to its attack. So baseline, that's 7. Yeah, and that damage to the Eliter is just doesn't have to interact with anything. So Draconic Armor here, Levitane Dragon, Evo is just gonna be 7 damage to Melty's face, and there's nothing Melty could do about that. Yeah, that is lethal. And Melty didn't have a ward up here, he could be taking even more damage. It's actually kind of gross. Yeah, and that's kind of how Arm works. It's the deck is entirely about speedrunning to Levitane Dragon's evolution forms. But Blast Mode is incredibly overtuned. Alright, so that's going to be a win apiece for each player here. And this is going to come down to a Last Word Shadow Mirror. Which is kind of, I think this matchup kind of goes to whoever goes first, but there's a little bit of draw ordering and card text. For example, there's some cards that, like Underworld Lieutenant, that can help you a lot when you go second. That I don't like to play, but it is what it is. Really, Fallen Sergeant's going to be what's really important here. Yeah, and Sai pointing out that Host has gone first again, even though the lobby says random. Yeah. So poor Goomba has gone second every game. This is not a meta game where going second is particularly favorite. Actually, the only deck that really likes going second is Spell Boost right now. And none of our players have chosen to bring it, either because of ideological reasons or maybe a gentleman's agreement. Alrighty, so we're going to see a turn 1 Mino out here from Melty. The second best 1-drop you can throw out in turn 1. And a Loyal Ghost Pup here from Goomba. Now, Goomba has the From the Dust Reborn in his hand, but I think he'd really like to use that on a Fallen Sergeant. That's usually how you get all of your Condemned cards in your hand. And speaking of which, that's a Fallen Sergeant in hand for Melty now. Well, I think Hellish Banquet's going to be his most likely next turn play. That's just curving out with as many last words as possible. Azvaldt added to hand for Goomba. That's probably the play here. There's From the Dust Reborn is not going to do anything for Goomba. He has no followers destroyed yet. Thunder God is kind of awkward to play later on, but I think so Azvaldt is, it can hit Abyssal Kernel, which is a brick, unfortunately. It can hit Fallen Sergeant, which is really good, and it can hit Estendet, which would actually be the best card to pull here, because then Goomba can go turn 3 Hugin Moonin, turn 4 Estendet. Yeah, so that is the other, right, so Goomba has instead chosen to go for Deathcat Reaper, because Goomba can get an instant pop on the Azvaldt on his turn 4, and this is the strongest play on board. It might be better. I personally lack rigorous experience with Last Words, and so playing to board here is probably fine, because both decks, in the mirror, both decks are kind of just going to be trying to get their own boards destroyed as quickly as possible. Either way, Hugin Moonin is generally going to be the best play here for, Goomba. Just because they draw 2 cards or 2 last words, it's just broken. Maybe not broken. This is really good. Alrighty, so last word counts. Let's see. When this fox dies, so this is going to be 5 last words now. No, if another follower were played, no. This is only like 3 last words here for Melty. Melty's actually really far behind on the last word count, but he's going to build up quickly, and he's kind of drawing his entire drawing all the condemned cards out of his deck, which is what this deck is really good for. Because Melty went turn 1, Ghost Pup, turn 2, turn 1 Mino, turn 2 Corral Souls, turn 3 Foxes. That's 3 last words now. So this is only 4 last words right now for Melty, which is a bit behind the curve. And Goomba, on the other hand, went Goomba, on the other hand, has 4 last words out right now, and if he rips an Extended off this Azvaldt, then you can get another 3 this turn. So Goomba is actually kind of ahead here on last word count. I think Azvaldt is going to be the play here. In fact, a card draw here. A Fallen Sergeant is really good. So it could also be Fallen Sergeant plus double Thunder Gods. That is 3 last words being put in play. So that would make Goomba go all the way up to 7. And that gets these Thunder Gods out of hand, and they are pretty hard to get rid of. So yeah. What I'd like to see from Melty here is if you can find a way to like keep to kind of refrain from destroying this Fallen Sergeant. I don't know if you can afford to. That's the problem. Okay, that Underworld Lieutenant's really nice. I think is Chaotic Doom first. Oh, I don't like doing that before Evos. Because you could get the Evo point, but maybe that doesn't matter as much. Okay, I really want to see the Underworld Lieutenant here, and then just Evo in place and leave the Fallen Sergeant. Fallen Sergeant is an end of turn draw on its last words, so the longer you leave a Fallen Sergeant out in play for your opponent, the more work they have to do to pop it on their own. And that makes it less likely for... Yeah, okay, Underworld Lieutenant, we see that coming out. I wonder if the players can hear me. Oh. Otter system. Okay, so then, yeah, Evo and just leave it there and make Goomba deal with the bodies, right? Because Fallen Sergeant can't destroy himself. But, I mean, the downside is that this is still a race matchup and you left your opponent with followers on the board. So it's like, I don't know. There's like pros and cons to the play. But it is pretty menacing. I mean, real irony is if that was the wrong play, but I tend to try to play around my opponent not having everything in hand already. Personally, that's how I play. Okay, so Mino glowing in Goomba's hand. I think by my count, Goomba was at 6 last words already. So Mino Extended probably doesn't want to use an Extended here. So Mino Sergeant. The Reborn gets a Deathcat Reaper, which is pretty good. Yeah, so Fallen Sergeant here coming out. Evo. Okay. Mino is almost certainly going to see play this turn because she is just incredibly efficient here. And, he's going to Krampus that one. The stronger one. That's interesting. So he's going to choose to try to cash in the damage face here with the 2-2, I think. And kind of like punish Melty for not trading off his 2-2. And it's going to be a lot of pressure. And is he going to use a From the Dust Reborn here, then? I think that's the thing, because that's another last word. Oh, no, going to use Krampus instead to try to dig for Abyssal Kernels. Okay, so that is going to be at the start of next turn. That was a delayed draw. I said end, but it's actually the start. At the start of next turn, I'm going to see 2 Condemned followers go into Goomba's hand, and if they're both Abyssal Kernels, that's going to be insane. But I think even if one is an Abyssal Kernel, one as an Abyssal Kernel is not going to be enough to win, I think. But if they're both Abyssal Kernels, then that is an instant win for, I think Goomba should be at enough last words for that. Okay, so an Abyssal Kernel coming out for Melty. Melty is definitely on the ropes here now. He's going to, he cannot activate Abyssal Kernel this turn, but by placing it on the board, he's going to make the Abyssal Kernel pop from Goomba a little bit worse. Because the kind of like the finish combo for this deck is to play crystallize your Abyssal Kernels and then use Extended to pop all the Abyssal Kernels. So we're gonna see. Okay, so Extended not glowing, I believe, means we aren't at 10 last words yet for Goomba. Both these players. This is a very close game here. This Underworld Lieutenant has done a lot of work for Melty, and Goomba is going to have to try to figure out how to convert this. This one Abyssal Kernel is kind of getting in the way of Goomba trying to combo off. So Mino and Cerberus is definitely a clear for Goomba, but if that kernel pops on Melty's side, then Goomba is also looking at a lot of trouble. So we're gonna. I think what we're gonna see is like a bit of a standoff between these two kernels until one player gets more kernels out. Mino Cerberus is a clear, and also heals, but the healing is negated by Underworld Lieutenant's 2 damage effect. Sai's asking for last words count. I lost track, to be honest, but I think it's like 9. Yeah, now it's 10. Now that Estenda is glowing, it's 10. Okay, so this is a nice play here, and so Estenda is going to pop this, and that's going to So okay, that was pretty cool. That makes sure that So what? I can't talk fast enough. That was an interesting play, but I think it's unfortunately not good enough because of Melty going first. Now we're gonna see, Melty really heads up with that advanced setup. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I was like, no Evo. That's not necessary. Yeah, that kernel setup was from Melty kind of kept him from dying there, forcing, yeah. Wow, that was really well navigated there at the end from Melty. The lieutenant putting in a lot of work. I know I say I don't like playing that card, but this is really kind of showing the strength of going first. Really, even though Melty was behind a bit in last word count, by setting up that kernel, he basically forced Goomba to add the extra turn. Right, it gave him the luxury to set up that kernel, keep Goomba from like sneaking in the win, and just pounded face for damage. Alrighty, well that's it. So that's a Dragon Shadow Mirror. The Dragon decks weren't the same, but the Shadow decks were, and it's I mean, with these decks, it's kind of just like go first is what you want to do. If you can go first, you're in a good place. The Shadow deck in particular does not have a lot of ways to benefit from going second. Azvaldt helps a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're getting your last words effect no matter what. Like, and since the critical turn is turn 6, there's not really a power play turn 4. Like, extend that's the best thing you can do. So yeah, the dragon matchup would have been pretty interesting to see, but that unfortunately we can't see every matchup. And that's it for today, I think. Thank you for joining us. That is going to be Melty taking down Goomba 2-1. Less one-sided in the previous match, and we saw some mirror matches, which was really cool. Showing the first favored nature of the format. Alrighty. So I think we're done here today. And let's see. I have Nyamu asking if Shadow lost every game, but that's not possible. We had a Shadow mirror, so Shadow couldn't also lose the mirror. But yeah, and this is something I said in my article today, is that Shadow's been kind of trailing in popularity lately on ladder. It's kind of exploitable by a lot of decks, and it has a lot of power, but like Crystallized Haven, for example, you just can't punch through Diamond Master. Against Sword, you can set up a kernel, but they can scam you really hard with Lupin, and then other decks just have banishes or a lot of healing to kind of overcome what Shadow tries to do. So, alrighty. So I think that's it. Thanks for Shuka for doing the stream here. I am terrible at handling streaming, so definitely just letting me focus on talking about the game. And I think we're good to end it today, right? And come join us tomorrow for 2 more games. We have the yeah. It's gonna be Joy versus against Shuka, so I guess I'll have to get someone else to stream then. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll have to do that or bother someone else. And then Skycole, also known as in a former life, Skycole was known as Himari. One of my we're on this. We were teammates in Shadowverse for a year before his retirement versus Animero. So I'll try not to be too biased for Skycole's match. Too biased against him, of course, because he kept beating me in tournaments. But yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone, and see you tomorrow.